Hey guys, welcome to the channel. It's C-Rad. I'm so stoked about Starfield. I'm really looking forward to playing it in early September. Of course, I got the got the deluxe edition, so I'll be playing a little bit earlier than the release date, and you'll have everything on the channel. But here, it looks like I'm not the only one who's stoked about Starfield. We're seeing Starfield all over the place. This one is from Morphologis, and I really could not wait to see what he would say about Starfield. So let's check it out.
Just dropped a massive gameplay reveal trailer, and it confirms much of what we've already gleaned from the earlier material they released. Starfield is going to be the traditional single-player space role-playing game perfected with the Bethesda flavor. And while
that's awesome. That's a very good point that he makes, right? It's not a space sim. It's an RPG game that looks like a space sim, but it's not. So that's something that it's very important to set your expectations right when you play a game. And this is not a competitor to Star Citizen. It looks like Star Citizen, it looks like No Man's Sky, but it's a completely different genre, right?
Sure, that's going to satisfy many a curious gamer itching for a sci-fi fix in a currently barren landscape of dying and unfinished games. For others,
the hit to Star Citizen. Oh, more. I see what you did here. So the deluxe edition gives you 5 days in advance, Oscar.
Like those of you looking for a Star Citizen replacement, it's likely going to be a bit disappointing since Bethesda is taking a much more traditional and conservative approach to game design.
There you go. Morph here is already setting our expectations already, right? This is not a Star Citizen replacement. I mean, it could replace Star Citizen as your main game. It could replace Star Citizen as your space fantasy game in the sense that, you want to travel in space and have an experience in space. That's how it's going to be for me. I'm going to play Starfield all the time. I know it because I like this kind of games, RPG games where you have adventures and you grow your character and the story is very important. I like solo games. I like story-driven games. I like RPGs. So I'm totally fine with that. And I just want to feel immersed in those environments, feeling those living, breathing environments. That's the kind of vibes that I'm looking for in Starfield. And but at the same time, I understand that it's not the simulation that Star Citizen is, of course.
What do I mean? Well, trust me when I say that if you're interested in space sim games, then you're gonna...
Oh, that's Mercury. Wow. Did you guys notice that? I never noticed that this was actually a... Look at that. It's actually in this. There's been plenty of little Easter eggs, by the way, in this gameplay reveal about the solar system.
I want to dive into this new material with me because Starfield isn't at all what you're probably expecting, but that might not be a bad thing. So, Starfield is a traditional space single-player role-playing game that centers around a character who stumbled upon an ancient alien artifact.
Yes.
I know it's not really a new trope, but for a lot of people, this is probably going to be their first introduction to science fiction. So
and that's fine. That's true. We are still in the revival of space games. Think 10 years ago, apart from Star Citizen, there were no space game. There was the X series, X3 was there. But there were not any space game projects. It was the very beginning of Elite Dangerous as well. Now we have space games all over the place. But back in those days, it was a new thing. And so there's this generation there that's experiencing those space games for the first time. And maybe they haven't jumped into the bandwagon of space games yet. And perhaps that's going to be their first one. So that's why it's fine going for a classic in terms of narrative elements. Here, in this case, the ancient alien artifact. Yes, it's a classic, but as I always say, guys, you can't go wrong with the classics.
So it's not going to be old for everybody. And I really got to emphasize here, traditional single-player RPG, because that's exactly how Bethesda looks to have approached the game's design. And that's because Starfield applies familiar, tried-and-true RPG game mechanics for character leveling known throughout all of Bethesda's titles like Skyrim and Fallout 4. Think Fuchs Roda, but in space. They pretty much just came right out and said that they're taking the best of what's worked from previous titles that they've made and improving on it for Starfield.
That's right. They're just taking a tried and proven formula and putting it into a space game and making it look like it's, the most modern type of game, the best looking game, but actually they are using old technology. And that's also a big difference with Star Citizen, where they are creating new technology from scratch. But at the same time, if it works, and if it... the most important in the end is, are you having a great time? Are you having a great experience? If that is what Starfield can provide, then that's awesome.
It's just going to be a Bethesda-style game, but in space. So if you expected anything else, well, you're going to be disappointed. But that's not a bad thing, because Fallout 4 and Skyrim, well, those games are legendary.
Yes.
The mechanics then work how you might expect from a Bethesda.
Now, I say yes, but actually I've never played a Bethesda game, so that's going to be my first one. But that's what people are saying. Now, that's my expectation. People always say, oh, wow, you should have tried Skyrim, you should have tried Fallout. These games are amazing. Like, I don't like the genre. I don't like magics. I don't like post-apocalyptic worlds. So that's why I never tried those games. But at the same time, there's always that part of me that's like, you're right, you've got to try the experience. You got to try the experience. And I was like, yeah, but Starfield is coming, so I'm going to be waiting for Starfield. So that's also why I'm so excited. So finally getting to experience the Bethesda expertise for this kind of game.
Bethesda game. You begin your journey by selecting 3 core attributes which will affect your story and options that you're given during conversations with other characters throughout the gameplay experience. You'll also be given the ability to customize your character through their improved character creation menu. What
an awesome character creation, by the way. It's not just the face, it's just all those attributes. Even I like that you can customize also your body shape too. That's so cool.
Reportedly includes at least 40 scanned faces to add more realism to the mix. And yet they still manage to look like Bethesda characters. But that's not necessarily going to affect your gameplay experience in any meaningful way, so let's just move on. As you play through, you'll be able to level up, and along the way, you'll be able to add on and acquire new perks, level up your abilities, and even
acquiring new perks. And that's also a big difference between Starfield and a game like Star Citizen. In Star Citizen, there are no perks. In Star Citizen, there are no skill levels. You are your own skill. When you improve at something, that is how you improve your skills. When you, as a person, as a human being, you improve at something. You improve at flying a ship. You improve at combat. That's how you improve. In Starfield, that's not how it works. Maybe you are awesome at FPS games, but if your character sucks, then you will suck in the game,
Unlock new ones. Again, nothing new or unexpected. It's just the traditional Bethesda structure like they've always used. As for the story, the alien artifact thread connects you with a group of explorers who are seeking answers to the purpose of the artifact, and about the mysterious alien civilization that created them. This story is, again, pretty familiar for us science fiction nerds, but it's sure to be fresh for a newer audience. Instead, what's likely going to be the draw for many are the mechanics surrounding exploration of the game's promised 1,000 plus star system.
Yes, that is a huge draw for me. I know that a lot of these planets are going to be barren. That's okay. You can still do a lot of things on barren planets. You can build outposts. You can collect resources. You can hide. You can find people. You can do mercenary missions. There are always things to do. So it's fine. After all, we are used to barren planets in Star Citizen and in Elite Dangerous too. So it's totally fine that there are going to be barren planets in Starfield.
It's a truly impressive number if we're to believe that these systems have something interesting to find and do. At the very least, the stuff...
Oh, this is Aquila, by the way. Aquila is the planet where you have the other faction. It's like the Space Cowboys.
That they showed off on this trailer was incredibly impressive, and in fact might even be the best looking planet tech that we've seen yet.
Oh, yes. Oh, they're... But at the same time, yes, it looks phenomenal, but there's a reason why it looks phenomenal. That's because the game is about to ship, finally, right? Sure, Star Citizen looks great now, but I bet that in 3, 4, 5 years, when Star Citizen will still be in alpha, maybe in beta, it's going to look even better than it does now because we're still in alpha. Starfield is not in alpha anymore. They're probably in beta or even in delta, if that's a thing. Or in gamma version, if that's a thing. I think there is gamma after beta. That's probably where they are.
If you can call it Planet Tech.
It's not really a Planet Tech. Yeah, these are tiles, right? So these are just basically they are maps. That's what they are. It's not really a tech.
Go into that a little bit later. As you might expect, traversal to those star systems is going to be managed through this universe's version of a warp drive. In this case, they call it a space full drive, and it's operated from a star map menu.
I love that star map. This is star maps done right. Please take some notes, Cloud Imperial Games.
It's actually legible straight from the start of the game, at least if we're to believe this material. Certain other games might learn a thing or two 10 years on.
Ha! There's just the morph. There you go, Star Citizen. Yeah.
Done basically through clicking on your destination, and then you'll be able to reach that location so long as you have enough fuel and range. It's nothing fancy, but it works.
But it works. See what you did, Morph, but it works, right? Which is like the... I think that Todd Howard likes to say that.
Once in the star system, you'll drop out into an arcade-like flight mode where you'll have the chance to encounter other ships and stations from various factions in the Starfield universe.
Now, yes, it's not... I don't even think we're going to have 6 degrees of freedom. If you think we're going to have 6 degrees of freedom, let me know in the chat down there or in the comment section down below on YouTube. I think it would be more like a Star Wars type of flight. As Morph said, it's probably going to be very arcadey, but it does include some simulation elements as well with the capacitors there, which are going to be adding that degree of complexity that I'm afraid we're not going to be seeing, for example, in Star Wars Outlaws.
That means no flipping and burning a la The Expanse or Battlestar Galactica style space flights, so if you're looking for that, it's a flight model more akin to something like Star Wars Squadrons, Everspace, or Rebel Galaxy.
There we go. All right.
It's not a space sim, again.
And that's fine. That's totally fine with me. Because that's kind of more... And that's why I suck. In Star Citizen, people say, oh, Erad, you suck at flying a ship. Yeah, I know I suck at flying a ship in Star Citizen because that's the kind of model that I am used to. If Star Citizen had a flight model like this, I would not suck. I'll be the best fighter out there, like I was back in the days in X-Wing Alliance. I'm not joking, that's why I'm the Eradicator. But in Star Citizen, well, I'm not used to 6 degrees of freedom. I still feel quite awkward because I've played for decades with flight models like this. So that's why it's fine. That's why I like this kind of flight model.
Not a space sim. This makes a lot of sense though, because the game is also catering to Xbox players who will have a limited number of controls through their Xbox remote.
To me, when I look at the space flight here, it looks a lot like what we saw in Freelancer. For those of you who are a little bit old school, right, the OG Chris Roberts experience, this looks like Freelancer, the kind of experience that we had in Freelancer. It looks the inertia, the way the ship moves, it's Freelancer.
Some of the ships you encounter in space will be hostile, while others will be friendly. You'll be able to fight, run, or even reason with encounters as you could in past Bethesda games via their conversation system.
I like that. That's also something that I love to do, is the Han Solo approach, trying to talk my way through a situation and trying to escape a predicament. Yeah.
Traveling to points of interest within the star system will also be accomplished through their star map, where you'll be able to scan the various orbital bodies within the system and then select a point of interest that you would like to land at. This landing sequence is a cutscene though, confirmed by Todd Howard himself some time ago, so if you were expecting to be able to pilot your own ship down to a planet's surface seamlessly and fly around, as I said, this is a traditional space role-playing game. It is not a space sim.
Yes, Morph. I think that at this time we understood. I like how Morph is like, guys, Morph here, he's curating his comment section already. He knows in the comment section he will have a lot of people saying that, oh, this is not like Star Citizen. I don't like all these shows because they don't have this or that. Yeah. So Morph's like, I don't want to see hundreds of comments comparing Starfield and Star Citizen with the way it plays. That's why he does that. I know, because I'm having the same problem here in my own comment section.
Bethesda's goal here is to give you the feeling of being an astronaut, not to actually make you into one. Planets and moons will be fully explorable.
Whoa, there's something I didn't notice before here. Let's go back here.
Traditional space role-playing game.
I want to look at
it is not
the fight
a
scene.
Space sim. Bethesda's goal here is to give you the feeling of being an astronaut, not to actually make.
So, Look at that. This is a 3-star collective, and here in this playtest, we are hostile to the 3-star collective at level 60. And that's definitely a different type of ship that they have here. I just wanted to look for those little details. I'll make a video about all of those details, by the way.
One. Planets and moons will be fully explorable, but will be instanced separately from space. There's no seamless transition. So this...
Now, I really wonder what fully explorable will be. I think that these are still going to be tiles, right? So let's say you land at a certain point on the planet, and you come back and you land, let's say, 20 or 30 kilometers away from that point. It's still going to be the same place.
This will likely be disappointing to space sim nerds, but isn't a deal breaker for those of you used to more traditional space games.
Yeah,
this
not a
approach
problem,
enabled
right?
Bethesda to proceed.
No, so Deadly Panda. So first, welcome to the chat, Deadly Panda. Nice to see you today. No, this game will not have atmospheric flight. It will have an old-fashioned type of space to ground cutscene transition. Like, for example, if you played Freelancer, that's how it is.
Procedurally generate the planet's surface as you select the location to land.
That's also how Star Citizen was supposed to be originally.
Making a kind of seed that's unique to every player. The generated seeds will be intermingled, though, with handcrafted experiences found through exploration, ensuring that players will still feel like the points of interest they find have some intention behind them, a problem with a lot of procedurally generated games that have come before it.
So, you're talking about ground vehicles, right? So, as of right now, we don't know anything about ground vehicles. We haven't seen any. Maybe they'll come with a DLC. I would suspect, with nowadays, you never know. You never know nowadays, Panda. It's 2023. These publishers, they always put DLCs with content that should be in release. So I would see it. For me, because we haven't seen ground vehicles yet, if we haven't seen them, don't assume that they'll be there. But the way I see it, with today's business model, I would not be surprised if we get to have ground vehicle DLCs for Starfield. If they make us pay for that, if Xbox makes us pay for that, I would not be surprised. I see it coming.
These POIs may be derelict or active settlements, outposts,
I hope I'm wrong,
alien
but
creature
I
nests,
see it
or
coming.
other types of locations that we have yet to discover. As you explore planets and moons, you'll also be able to utilize your scanner to record information on various fauna and flora, similar to what you might have experienced in Elite Dangerous or, more notably, No Man's Sky.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be experiencing that. I love, not necessarily the exploration, but discover. There's a difference between exploring and discover. Discovering new life forms, discovering fauna. The reason why I'm not playing Elite Dangerous, you can't do that. It's because Elite Dangerous is so boring. There's nothing to do there in Elite Dangerous. There's no action, and all the planets look the same. If only in Elite Dangerous we could finally be landing on those planets with thick atmosphere that we've been seeing since the launch and that have been not accessible to us, then I would still be playing Elite Dangerous. But they've been lazy with their planet tech. And the new planets that we've had with Elite Dangerous Odyssey, they're basically all the same with a tiny, tiny little atmosphere, and that's basically, there's nothing happening there. It's such a waste. Number 2, No Man's Skies. The reason why I'm not playing No Man's Sky, I hate cartoonish graphics. We are not in the 2000s anymore. This is not 2005 anymore. Don't give us... I don't want to see that. When I was young, I dreamt of this photorealistic experience that I would have in gaming that we are finally having in the 2020s. That's what I want to see. That's what Starfield is providing us, and that's why I'll be playing Starfield and enjoying those game mechanics, and that's why I am not playing No Man's Skies. Or No Man's Sky, yeah. The plans are disappointing in Elite, yeah.
Basically looks exactly like that. They just made it look better for their own style. Also, like No Man's Sky, you'll be able to scan for mining deposits, which you'll want to find in order to help craft various items like weapons, supplies, ammunition, and even more that we'll go into later.
Look at this wonderful derelict outpost there. We've seen derelict outposts in Star Citizen for years now. And look at what Starfield is bringing.
And while some moons and planets will be mostly barren landscapes like our own moon, others will be a lot more bespoke, like those that feature major cities and POIs that you're going to want to visit to find new items, missions, and maybe even align yourself with various factions found throughout the Starfield universe.
I love this bug that's also a flower. It's so cool.
And also, of course, progress through the story. Bethesda boasts that these will be the biggest cities that they've ever made in any game before, so it promises to have a lot to explore and be worth visiting. Now, when it comes to
by the way, Morph, I am looking forward to seeing your architect reviews in Starfield. Please do more of those in Starfield. And I would love to also see an architect create. Please make your own outpost in Starfield and explain your technique as a professional. That is something I'd be very interested in doing as well.
Combat,
I love his reviews
for the
too,
pew side of things, space combat is going to be done through a much more traditional format in either first or third person with an arcade-style flight mechanic system. Luckily, they also incorporate a much more contemporary combat mechanic, which is in the form of energy management.
Now, Morph here, I disagree. This is not contemporary. Capacitors have always been in Space Sim. They've always been there. As far as I remember, I've been playing Space Sims for 3 decades now. I started, my first Space Sim was X-Wing. Back in those days, 30 years ago, I can't believe I'm saying that, that's how old I am. 30 years ago, X-Wing already had capacitors where you had to manage your energy, your shields, and your engines. It already existed. So that is not contemporary. The word you're looking for, Morph, here is traditional.
Which you might be familiar with if you've played Elite Dangerous or even Star Citizen. This allows you to rebalance power between different ship systems, which augments the ship's abilities and helps you perform certain tasks better in a pinch, such as powering your shields more so that you can defend yourself against a large force of attacking NPCs.
Which is going to be very important in Starfield. You are going to encounter some enemies, because in Starfield, it's an RPG game, so you've got levels. You're going to level up, but you are going to encounter enemies with a higher level that it might not be wise to attack those enemies. It might not be wise to trigger a fight with those enemies. Your level, let's say you're level 5, you're encountering level 30 enemies, you're going to get your ass whooped if you try to fight them. So yeah, you are going to need to get better shields and full power to your shields and maybe engines too, so that you can get out while you can. And that's very important, and that's something that you are going to have to really consider when you play Starfield.
Ship subsystems then can also be targeted on other vessels, which allows you to disable a ship as opposed to destroying it. This enables boarding gameplay where you'll be able to dock with another ship.
Oh man, that's fantasy of boarding ships, which we kind of have, sort of, in Star Citizen, but it's not fully fleshed and it's a bit clunky. And of course, in Star Citizen, you got the problem of people who are just, rage quitting and combat logging. It's still a thing. You're not going to be having that in Starfield. It's going to be that real experience of ship-to-ship combat, ship-to-ship docking, and ship-to-ship boarding. Yes, that we don't have in any other games. Elite Dangerous doesn't have that. X4, you're doing that via your own cockpit of your ship, and you pretend that you have some Marines doing that for you, right? And finally, we're going to do that ourselves. I cannot wait.
Board it and then clear it of enemies as you loot valuable stuff.
And
you'll
take
also
the ship
even
for
be able to
yourself.
keep the ship if you so choose. And as you might expect, combat will also be able to take place on planets, moons, and even space stations, where you'll be able to encounter various NPCs like hostile aliens, pirates, cults, warring factions, and even make possible allies. You'll be able to dispatch them should you choose using one of the game's various weapon types. You'll find the basics like rifles, SMGs, sniper rifles, machine guns, and even more interesting weapons more befitting of a futuristic universe. And you'll even be able to craft different weapons and attachments so that you can augment the weapon that you choose.
I wonder if we'll be able to sell them as well. If we craft our own weapons, I hope we'll be able to sell them as well, right? Look, NPCs standing and walking on tables, right?
To do certain things, so you can make something to fit your particular style of play. Like other Bethesda games, you can also choose to run and gun, or just go the more stealthy route. Or you could even talk your way out of a situation if you're lucky.
I know, this is so cool, talking your way out of the situation. Or, making sure that you are taking advantage of a situation with your
enough and have the
talking
right perks
skills.
to help you out. The combat then overall looks pretty good, about what you would expect from a casual space RPG. Again, Bethesda's not reinventing the wheel here, they're just making a really good updated version of it. But any good science fiction game today worth its salt doesn't just have combat. It also has really cool spaceships, and if it's a really good game, spaceships with interiors.
Yes! Morph is giving the slices. Take that, Star Citizen. Elite Dangerous. You know, Morph. He has fully recovered. He was a bit sick. A couple of weeks ago. He has fully recovered. That is the Morphologis' wit and spirit here.
So if you were looking for fully explorable ship interiors, you won't be disappointed. It's a feature that is going to be in Starfield. The style they're going with here is something that they're referring to as NASA Punk.
I love the style. And then NASA Punk, because Starfield is about 300 years in the future, so it's not that far. It's not as far as Star Citizen or Elite Dangerous, which are like, 1,000 years in the future. It's just 300 years. So that's why they're still having some cues that we're still having nowadays in our own technology, and it makes it more relatable, more believable,
which is
so
a
you
style
feel more
that takes
attached.
the familiar design language that we've seen from present-day space stations and spacecrafts and adds a bit of a retro-futuristic touch to them to make them feel more a part of the future that we're in this universe. This style is perfect in my view, and it grounds the designs to a more visceral, lived-in style that is instantly relatable. And in Starfield, you also won't be living alone in your spaceship, as you'll have the ability to hire crew on who will help you perform various functions throughout your ship and help enhance your ship's abilities.
Now, this is something that I was a bit disappointed in the presentation. They didn't show much about the companions, so I hope that we're going to know a little bit more about them. For example, we didn't see any companion fight with us. We saw Vasco, the robot, doing a little bit of combat. Tiny sequence with Vasco doing some combat, and that was basically it. Most of the combat situation that we saw, we were on our own, taking multiple enemies. I just hope that we're going to have some of the companions with us during those combat sequences. We just feel like having someone who's got our back, or having the back of someone while we're in those situations. I think it will be more epic.
This will also become an active part of the story, as you'll be able to make friends with them and even start relationships if you so choose. When you're done selecting the perfect crew, though, you'll also find that the ships themselves can also be fully customized.
Yes.
And this might be one of the best features in Starfield, at least.
Oh, I cannot wait to make my own ships in Starfield. I need to find a way to do the Irad style, right?
For me, you'll be able to mix and match, reconfigure, and upgrade your ship through new engines, modules, flare, paints, and weapons. And this will actually change the ship's interior and the way the ship actually flies. And it seems that the limitations on this will be quite few, judging by some of the weird versions of ships that they created for the video.
Yeah,
ship building isn't the only kind of building you'll be able to do either. You'll also be able to build your own outposts.
Oh yeah, Morph, you've got to do an architect builds. You've got to do that.
Which will have the ability to farm and harvest resources like those found hand mining, and can be used to craft additional items to help you on your way throughout the universe. Yet another feature I'm surely going to spend hours doing without actually progressing through the story.
Yeah, right? These features are such time sinkers. You start doing those, and by the time you stop figuring it out, before you know it, you're already 3 or 4 hours into it.
And you know what? That'll be just fine. So again, they're not really doing anything new here. They're just taking what's become more common in the genre and doing it in their own Bethesda way that is arguably the best yet.
It's fantastic.
Starfield then isn't a particularly innovative or revolutionary game, neither technologically or in terms of game mechanics.
But, and that's where Bethesda is doing it right here. They're bringing their own flair. They're bringing their genius. And that's where I wish that we had more of these specialized companies doing that. I think that we're going to see that a little bit with Massive and Star Wars Outlaws, but that's another topic for another day. I'm making a Star Wars Outlaws video on the main channel. It's coming over the weekend. But I wish that we had more of these studios taking on the space genre and bringing their expertise to make awesome games like those.
It's more of an evolution of the genre. Bethesda takes what's worked in the past for their own RPG titles and gives it a new, much larger setting in space enabled by modern technology and hardware, and then sprinkles in what's worked and what is considered the best from other science fiction games within the genre. I look at it as a sort of mature, grounded version of No Man's Sky with some elements of Elite Dangerous and even Star Citizen.
Yes, mature version of No Man's Sky, a realistic-looking version of No Man's Sky, exactly. This looks so creepy. I love this.
So while their traditional approach to making an RPG likely will disappoint many who were hoping for a more space sim-like experience, it probably...
Yeah, you gotta know your expectations, right? You've got to know what you're stepping into when you're getting into a game. And I like that Morph here has been very careful in telling us, like, hey, this is not Star Citizen. It's a totally different type of game.
Won't matter for the vast majority of casual gamers who just want to play a game today and not wait another 10 years.
Oh, there we go, Star Citizen. Another one. Another one. Yeah, that's also what I said in my reaction to the Starfield. Yeah, exactly right. We are gamers. We don't want to be forever testers. Eventually, you've got to release something, a finished product, and that it what Starfield is.
The fact that planets aren't fully simulated, that space is a separate instance with a traditional painted skybox and so on, isn't probably going to matter or be even perceptible in any meaningful way to the non-sim gamer.
There you go.
The simple and hard truth is that Bethesda's more conservative approach, iterating on current tech instead of inventing something new, means that they're able to deliver a game for today's generation, not the next one.
Oh! oh no, Star Citizen. Not the next one. Yeah. Hey, you know, he's right. When I this is crazy. When I backed Star Citizen, my son was not even born. When I and now my son is this tall. When my son is right here now. When I started playing Star Citizen in 3030, my son was not born. The first time I played Star Citizen, my son was not born. Now he's here. Yeah.
Starfield then has an actual release date of the 6th of September, and I'm definitely going to be picking up a copy. But what about you? Is Bethesda's conservative approach to game design a deal breaker?
That's
or
fine. I'm glad with that. They're releasing a finished product that we are going to enjoy now, not in 2 years. And in 2 years, it's going to be 2 years again. And in 2 years, it's going to be 2 years again, like we've seen for so many years, right? They are releasing it now, and that's fine.
With forgoing any kind of new tech for a rich experience that you can have today, before you die. Let me know.
And that's so... Star Citizen, because there's been many Star Citizen, not many, but there's been quite a few Star Citizen backers who actually died. It's actually true, who died before experiencing the game. Here we're going to play. If you can survive the next 2 months, you're going to be playing Starfield.
In the comments section below. See you guys in the next one.
That's awesome. A great video from Morphologis. I'll put the link in the description down below. Check out his channel, subscribe to him. I'm subscribed. And yeah, I'm looking forward to you Architect reviews. Definitely.